$485 billion were given in 2021. We're talking about a third of that being from the local church is a staggering stat.
If every believer tithe, faith organizations would have an extra $139 billion
Easy.
each year. A pastor turned tech leader and a millennial churchgoer explore the intersection of technology, culture, and faith, equipping you with innovative strategies to support you as you live out your calling, lead your churches with confidence, and step into the future together. This is the Give It Up podcast.
How are you, Zoe?
Jazzy. It just felt like the best word to use.
What a great word choice.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Something I've been working on, just being weird and an outlier.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
In your natural state.
Correct. Yes. But you know what's going to be even more weird? What I want to do in this episode.
Yeah.
Because I want to give you some stats that I found online.
Okay.
That are either about giving, Gen Z, millennials,
Yep.
and just get raw reactions from you and talk about it.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of church leaders should know what I'm about to drop right now, because I was actually gasping multiple times as I found them.
Okay. Let's do it.
Okay, so first gasp. 5% of churchgoers tithe.
Accurate.
How is that possible?
Yeah, people don't have the revelation of the tithe. I mean, I think even some people think they're tithing, but they're just tipping God. And so that makes a lot of sense. I would say 5 to 10% is what I'm seeing on average at churches. What an opportunity, right? What an opportunity to accelerate the mission and the vision and the pace of that within the church if we just can help people get the revelation of the tithe.
Wow. But yeah, this is an interesting point you're making, because then the next statistic I found is 77% of tithers, so 77 of the 5%,
Okay.
give more than 10%.
Interesting. Wow.
Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, I mean, if you have the revelation of the tithe, you have the revelation that it's not yours anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
When people are giving 10% of their income, it's not like obligatory. It's not like guilt giving. Most of the time, if you have the true revelation of the tithe, you are doing so because you're simply returning what's not yours anyways. And so when you have that revelation, it's so easy to give above and beyond that because it's all God's.
Yeah.
Right? And we are just here to have the privilege in partnering with God and the resources that he's allowed us to have. When you submit your tithe, you're inviting him. You have a God awareness in your finances. When you have that revelation, it's so easy to not just restrict it to the law of 10%, but really easy to go above and beyond that and give out of the overflow.
I love that. So this next one's a little bit mind-bendy. So I want to up the ante a little bit and actually have you share the statistic of all giving and all philanthropy in the philanthropic sector. What percent of that comes from faith communities?
Over 30%.
Which equates to what?
Which equates to over $100 billion. I mean, $485 billion were given in 2021. 2022, I don't know if the stats are at yet, but it's probably even more than that. So let's say $500 billion. So we're talking about a third of that being from the local church is a staggering stat. Second place, I know, is education at around 13%, not even close to the power of religious giving. Or what I will say, a giving that is predicated not on even my responsibility, but my response to a God that is so good.
Yeah. I think that's crazy because of how we just heard that's 5% of people tithing, giving that. And so you take the Pareto principle into this and it's all wonky, but they have shared that if every believer tithed 10%, faith organizations would have an extra $139 billion
Easy.
each year.
Easy, probably even more. I mean, if you think about it, right, Harvard has over $30 billion, one of the biggest endowments. Harvard could let all of their students go to school for free for like decades and still be okay, right?
Wow.
It's so interesting that there are certain institutions that have figured out having such a fixture and identity within their alumni, within the families those alumni are building, that they would get things like bequests from people's estates, from people's wills and trusts.
What does that mean? What's a bequest?
A bequest is a distribution when a family member or the owner of that estate passes away.
Okay.
And a lot of times they'll put their alma mater as a beneficiary
Wow.
within their estate, not just their kids, not just the people that would inherit it, but also the causes that they care about. And so it's so interesting that universities have figured out, these mechanisms of generosity. And I think the church has a real opportunity to do that as well. It does start with the tithe, but it does also expand into going deeper in partnership with your families of what it means to have multi-generational legacies in the faith.
And that goes into options and different ways and different things.
That's right.
And financial tracks in which you can give, because this stat blew my mind. And we did have a pastor recently share with us that 2 to 5% of his congregation is still giving cash. This stat says that 76% of people do not carry more than $50 on them at any given time.
Yeah, so if you're passing the buckets in your church, you're not even getting a hundo. You just
Correct.
you get a couple bucks. That is literally probably the definition of a tip. Definitely not a tithe. They're tithing, they're giving above and beyond online. They're giving it through their mobile phones. They're giving it through your website.
Yep.
And if you're not making it easy, if you're not creating beautiful experiences, if you're not making it just a couple clicks of the button and that experience is clunky, you are going to miss the moment.
And this speaks to that because it says more than half of churchgoers between 24 and 54 prefer to use electronic tools for church transactions. Whether it's Bible school, Bible study materials, fundraisers, event tickets, all of it, they want it to be electronic.
Yeah. I don't know the last time I put something in a bucket.
Right. Or wrote down anything to sign up for. Do it online or don't do it at all.
That's right.
That's my motto.
Right.
And then it says more than half of churchgoers between 22 and 44 would give more to offset the costs if they knew their church was paying processing fees.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
I do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Because if I'm already giving what I am, what is an extra 3%? Like it's just, at that point, you're only talking about a couple extra dollars comparatively.
Right.
So I think that's more than fair.
You know what's interesting is, do you think that you would get excited if your church also made moves to even save more on processing fees, so more of your gift went to the mission and not the merchant processing fees?
Yes, because I'd be like, wow, look, you're trying to take care of us in the same way that we're trying to take care of you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, when churches are innovating in this way, that's what we say at Overflow. Overflow is the platform that your givers want.
Right.
Right. And so your givers want to have more optionality in the way that they're generous towards your organization. Also, your givers want to know that their giving is being maximized. And when, a good portion of it is going to merchant processing fees, some people are actually willing to cover it, but it'd be awesome if they could even see that churches are making moves to minimize it and lower it. And merchant processing fees is not ever going to go to zero, but there are ways to lower it. I mean, at Overflow, we bought a company last year that has a tight relationship with one of the major payment processors. A lot of the giving products out there, whether it's built on Stripe or something else, they're encumbered to a certain processing fee, whether it's 2.2% or whatnot. And because their business model is tied to making a margin on that giving, then the fee that they pass along to you is going to be 2.9% at best. I've seen some giving platforms, and you should look at your statements on your P&L. You should see what is actually going to merchant processing fees. I've seen it be as high as 6-7% with certain giving platforms. But even if it's 2.9%, you got to factor in Amex in there. That's 3.5% plus.
Oh, dang.
Blended, you're paying, anywhere from 3 to 4% in merchant processing fees off the top line of your giving, right? For smaller gifts, that's not much. But when you scale that out to the totality of your giving, you bring in, $10 million, you're giving up, right? 300,000 in processing fees. That's why we're so passionate at Overflow to minimize that. We save churches, and many churches are actually switching to us just to bring everything under one house, which is cool. We're the first platform that can do not only stock and crypto, but ACH debit credit giving. But the way that we do ACH debit credit giving is by saving you the most on fees that is possible. And we save people up to 1%. We just signed on an organization that does 30 million. That means that they're going to be saving about $300,000 a year.
That's nuts.
Across 3 years, we're talking, 7-figure level savings in a multi-year kind of campaign that they'll be able to hire staffing.
Yes.
They'll be able to build buildings. They'll be able to increase the level of services that they have for their community. Our motto at Overflow is we want to unlock net new giving, unlock more ways to give, but also unlock net new savings for your organization. Both of that contributes to a bigger bottom line for your organization to accelerate the mission.
Well, you nailed that. And one other stat I read is that 39% of e-givers, so online givers, are actually contributing weekly, which I found relatively surprising because I hear a lot about how people give once a month or give every other week to match the paycheck. But this is actually saying that almost 40% is giving every week.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny that we call it e-givers.
Yes.
Like when you get that email sometimes and people respond with, it's nice to e-meet you. Are we still saying that? Are we saying
no
e-meet you? I mean, just nice to meet you. You know what I mean? Like we already know this is an email. Like what is e-meet? E-givers, 40% is giving weekly. I think that's interesting. It's connected to the way that people work. Right? So there's this proliferation. You probably have it at your church. You probably have it as supporters in your charitable organization. The gig economy. A lot of people are now earning paychecks on the go, on the fly, not just the 15th and 30th kind of paycheck type workers out there. There are people that are influencers. There are people that earn, residuals weekly through their YouTube channel. There's people that are Uber drivers, Lyft drivers. There's people that are, doing DoorDash, and they want to tithe off that, right? You take the other extreme where it's not even weekly and it's periodic.
Yeah.
I'm talking about real estate agents, right? I'm talking about people that get paid in lump sums.
Yeah.
These people, they do want to tithe, but they forget. And these are the type of tools that we build at Overflow is to automate those unique type of givers, give them automated notifications so that they can honor God, not by their memory. We say this at Vive Church, my church that I go to, automate your obedience, right? Put it on recurring. So in doing recurring for a gig economy worker, for a real estate agent is going to look differently, but it can be solved through technology.
Yeah.
And those are the type of tools that we're building at Overflow to serve these trends, these stats that you're talking about. Yeah. Behavior has already shifted. Our software, our services need to shift with it.
I love that. And speaking of behavior shifting, you love the science of giving.
Yeah.
This one was pretty wild to me. 41% of Americans who donated 10% of their income said they never or hardly ever experience depression.
Yeah, I mean, therapy is like avant-garde right now, right?
Right.
Therapy, counseling, and, Kim and I, my wife, we periodically visit with one of our marriage coaches, and it's been revolutionary for our life. So I am pro that, but it cannot be a replacement for people's relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus himself talks about money in the Bible because money is so intertwined with relationships. Our specific relationship with money is tied to the way that we filter this planet, right? The way we filter life, the way we go through life. And if your finances, if the way that you see money is not saved, if it's not redeemed, the way that you manage and think about money is going to cause so much anxiety, debilitating anxiety. But if you have anxiety about money, it's going to translate into relationships. The number one cause of divorce is actually not infidelity, it's finances.
Crazy.
And so that's how important it is for us to be talking about these things.
Yeah. And it doesn't even need to just be money. Notice how I said just and not just one or the other, right? Those who describe themselves as very happy volunteered almost 6 hours per month. Those who said they were unhappy volunteered just 0.6 hours. Isn't that interesting?
The world of the generous gets larger and larger. We all have the same amount of time, don't we?
Yep.
So those people that are volunteering, that are giving of their time, that are submitting of their time, it came with a pattern of giving in other areas of their life.
Yeah.
If you're giving of your finances, you're going to be more likely to give of your time. If you give of your time, you're going to be more likely to be generous with your connections. If you're generous with your connections, it just continues to enlarge. We actually have the same amount of time though. I personally don't have more time than you. You personally don't have more time than me. So why on average is somebody that's going to give their money going to give of their time? It's because we have a different mentality about life.
Right.
We experience life differently.
Yes.
We approach life differently. And my approach actually dictates the way I spend my time.
Yeah.
Or better yet, how I invest my time. And so we have the same amount. It's how are you going to approach it?
That's great. And speaking of the mindset and the mentality, here's the millennial mindset and mentality. 75% of millennials consider themselves philanthropists. And 9 in 10 say that charitable giving is of major importance in our lives.
Millennials want to live a life that is generous.
Yep.
I wouldn't even say that people even like the term philanthropist, but it's just a term that the media has given us to explain that our money is not just going to consuming, right? It's going to something else beyond consumption.
Right.
Amazon has taught us that we can be such good consumers.
Yes.
We are so good at consuming because of Amazon now. It's so convenient.
Yep.
You could buy really anything. If you're a Prime member, it's at your doorstep in a couple hours, and it's taking, it's consuming, it's buying, it's consuming, it's taking.
Yep.
I don't want to be known in my life for just what I consumed.
Come on.
How cool would it be to have an organization that's committed to also providing you a way that you can be known for giving?
Yes.
That's what Overflow is all about. We're on mission to inspire the world to give by building the infrastructure that makes generosity frictionless across every major asset class. What if you were not just compelled by your Amazon account and looking at your history of everything that you've spent, downloading another fintech app that just beautifully categorizes all of your consumption?
Yep.
But what if you could also download another app? What if you could also log into another profile that showed you how much you gave?
Yes.
Right? And I'm not anti-consumption. I'm a capitalist. I'm not anti, buying things and going on experiences and living a good life. The Bible talks about how God, Jesus is for an abundant life. Like that we are meant to live our best life.
Yeah.
Part of that best life is not just consumption though. It's how much have I given, right? I think Forbes probably messed it up for us a little bit in our psyche, in our psychology as a society. Forbes telling us the richest people on the planet and ranking it every year for us, and that being the goal.
Yeah.
The goal being on how can I get on that list, or how can I know somebody on that list, and the people on that list wanting to stay on that list. That's why people do a pledge to give when they die, because they want to still be on the list. Because if they gave it before they died, maybe they get off the list, right? And so I'm actually cool with the list on a high level. Maybe I would change it to a list of not my net worth, but a list of how much I made. I'm actually cool with that. People that are motivated to create products that a lot of people buy and they make a lot of money.
Yeah.
That list of how much I make, I'm actually cool with, but it should be coupled with how much I gave.
Yes.
Because then maybe we change the goalpost to not just how much I made, but how much I gave in this world. And the young people, Gen Z, the people growing up also get not just inspired by a net worth list or a how much I made list, but a how much I gave list would be so cool.
Yeah, here's a fun exercise I did actually a couple months ago. I took the list of the 25 top philanthropists in the world based on the amount that they gave.
Oh, nice.
And I flipped it on its head to divide how much they made this year versus how much of that they gave.
Oh, a little giving quotient.
There was only
giving metric.
one person who gave over 10%.
Who?
It was Mackenzie Scott.
Wow. Yeah, she gave a lot.
Everybody else was 5% or lower.
Wow, interesting. So the world's richest people are not tithing.
Correct. But how empowering that would be to even share with your congregation is
interesting.
Hey, guess what? If you gave over 6% of your wealth this year, you are literally one of the biggest givers in the world.
I love that.
By percentage point.
We call it's not equal giving, it's equal sacrifice.
Yes.
Right? And that's why I love the tithe. It's a proportion.
Yep.
It's a proportion of what God has given you.
Yep.
And it's a sign of stewardship. The reason why fintech in the personal finance space will never solve our relationship with money is because it just simply categorizes in a more beautiful way and in a more instant way how much you spend, and how our friends are living off $110 when they only make $100.
Yes.
The tithe is so cool because it's basically saying, can I live on 90? If you can live on 90, I guarantee you're going to be successful in life, right? I guarantee you that you're going to have a better relationship with money, and a better relationship with money is how I define success. I'm less anxious.
Yep.
I'm recognizing a God that is good, that is sovereign over my bank account. And when I do that, when I practice that sacred act of the tithe, right? I practice a God awareness in my finances. And I think that is a better way.
Yeah, I love it. A report shows from Millennial Impact Report, 90% of millennials said they stop giving to organizations when they distrust the organization. And I'm going to say the other stat in a second, but you're talking about Amazon, how we're an Amazon generation from the concept of give or getting.
Right.
We also want to see change happen just as fast. So if we give to something and we don't know, first off, when you're going to do this by or anything like that, you may just have gotten our distrust at your doorstep as a result of that. And then the other stat is another 90% said that they're motivated to give by a compelling mission. So it goes hand in hand.
Love that.
Do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, people don't just want promises, they want plans.
Yes. Yes.
We heard the other day, I was at this conference, this amazing teaching on bucket lists, right? I think what would be cool is not just a bucket list though, but another list that was, how am I going to fulfill that bucket list?
I love that. Yes.
And so people don't just want promises, they want plans. They want to know, okay, and there's nothing wrong with like projecting an impossible vision, right? I think that's cool. Like, especially if you're convicted that God gave it to you, is these initiatives and these visions that God gave, because that creates a God gap, that creates a a vision gap for
Yeah.
people to partner with God to make happen. But don't just present the promise, present some plans that, you're as a leader going to lead with, and that leaders within the church are going to lead with. And that is showing that, okay, hey, this is impossible, but if we partner with God and we give him our best with pragmatic plans, he can anoint it, bless it, and put the God factor on it to actually see the impossible happen.
So good. I was going to not try and say so good because, I'm trying to just hold it, but that was really good. And that actually was super empowering to hear. Okay, I actually got this stat from your book.
Yes.
Right here.
Come on.
And I'm going to react to it.
Yeah.
Okay, the stat that 45% of crypto donors gave over $1,000, whereas 33% of stock donors gave over $1,000.
Yeah.
Here's what I think is happening, okay? This is my hot take because I do have crypto and I do have stock investments as well. I think this percentage is higher because crypto and crypto donors,
Yeah.
we got it so much faster.
Interesting.
That way,
Interesting.
we're equally as open to giving it away faster.
Yep.
I mean, isn't
Yep.
that why that whole, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that why that whole hashtag HODL?
Hodl, yep.
Yes. Wasn't that is just a play on hold?
Yeah, I mean, yes, you did get it from the book. Chapter 4, deep dive into cryptocurrency. Chapter 5, deep dive into stock donations. We wrote High Growth Fundraising the Silicon Valley Way, unlocking stock, crypto, and more for your nonprofit, church, or school, really to talk about giving from a macroeconomic standpoint and also what's happening in the micro.
Yep.
There are trends where people are diversifying their net worth into things like stocks, ETFs, mutual funds, 401ks, IRAs, as well as non-traditional assets such as crypto that has been on the rise for the last decade. Yeah, that idea I think is interesting around, are people more generous and are they giving at a faster rate through non-cash assets? I'm not totally sure about that, but what I am sure of is that it is on average a bigger gift,
Right.
because there are bigger gains.
Yes.
Right? And there is this psychology when you have appreciated gains in an investable asset that you're on house money. Right?
Yes.
Like the money has been growing over a period of time
Yeah.
in an appreciating fashion. There's tax implications to that where you can actually save on taxes through giving of appreciated gains. But I do think that there's a psychology that, I'm giving out of the overflow. I'm giving off the top. And the economy cycles, right?
Yep.
In this past season, actually, when we're recording this, there are some people, especially in tech, that are not seeing as much appreciation in their gains that they've seen in the past. And so sometimes people, and my pastor did a teaching on this not too long ago, are not only going to give off the top or out of the overflow, but in those seasons are going to give out of creativity. And so if you've committed, if God gave you a vision to be generous in your church and he's given you an amount and you want to stay committed to that amount, maybe it's not going to come off the top. Maybe it's not going to come out of the appreciation. Maybe it's going to come out of imagination. Maybe it's going to come out of creativity. Maybe it's going to come out of a side hustle. Maybe it's going to come out of ingenuity. Maybe it's going to come out of your entrepreneurial spirit, right? When we bought this building, it was incredible because we raised $8 million in 45 days.
Insane.
Yeah, $4 million of it was in stock and crypto. But guess what? There was no multi-million-dollar gifts, okay? I'm talking about the ingenuity of young girls creating lemonade stands and making thousands of dollars and giving more than some adults.
Wow.
I'm talking about kids making crafts, putting it on Etsy and selling it. This is the creativity, the imagination that Overflow is all about.
Exactly. And that's why we're so adamant about you reimagining your own giving landscape in your church.
So good.
So if you want to, you should probably talk to us. Overflow.co.
So good.
Twice in one episode. Dang.